Welcome to ABC 24 This Week. I'm Richard Ransom. We're here every Sunday at 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. to bring you the real story behind the big stories. And I expect the time to fly by today, so let's get right to it. So much to unpack from this week's developments in the Tyree Nichols case. First, we'll talk about the funeral to celebrate his life, as well as the attention, both good and bad, that it brought to the city of Memphis. Then we'll talk about the ramifications of the case, which are starting to become more apparent now. The firing of 2 fire department EMTs and their supervisor, as well as the suspension of 2 Shelby County deputies. Also, what kind of reforms can we realistically expect within the Memphis PD? Will past cases of excessive force be revisited? And new legislation also being proposed in Nashville. And finally, we'll talk about where things stand in the Memphis mayor's race. Financial disclosures out this week say a lot about who's winning the fundraising game, and a new candidate enters the race as well. We'll get to all of that in a moment, but first let me introduce my distinguished panel. On my far right here is ABC 24 political analyst Otis Sanford. Defense attorney Art Horn is here with us, and political consultant Tawan Stout Mitchell, also former city councilwoman. So we're happy to have you here too. You can give us your perspective on all of this. So you couldn't turn on your TV Wednesday, I don't care where you get your news, and not see and learn about the funeral that they had at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, a celebration of life that I thought was very impressive. We'll show some video of it here now, where obviously you had the vice president in attendance. You had family members of numerous people who've also died from excessive police force who came and showed up. You had very eloquent speeches from a lot of folks. Otis, just how do you think Memphis presented itself to the nation as a result of this service?
Well, I think as far as the service, I think it presented to the nation wonderfully. It was a very dignified, very serious service. I think that the eulogy that Al Sharpton gave was eloquent. He struck all the right tones there, talking about, in a city where Dr. King was killed, these police officers who owe their jobs to people who fought for civil rights, and then they're going to turn around and kill one of their own brothers. And I just thought that, and Pastor J. Lawrence Turner was eloquent as well. The fact that the vice president was there and showed tremendous comfort, I believe, to Miss Wells, the mother. I just think that we showed America how this is done, but not just the funeral. I think that the response to the video, the lack of any violence in the streets, which I think the national media was expecting that, did not happen. I think Memphis showed the world how to respond to things, but still insist on accountability.
In fact, I'd like to share a couple of sound bites from the actual service itself. I think we have one not only from Reverend Sharpton, but also the mother, Rovon Wells. Let's listen to those if we can back to back, and then we'll get everyone's reaction on the other side.
In the city that Dr. King lost his life, not far away from that balcony, you beat a brother to death. There's nothing more insulting and offensive to those of us that fight to open doors, that you walk through those doors and act like the folks we had to fight for to get you through them doors.
Tyree was a beautiful person, and for this to happen to him is just unimaginable. I promise you, the only thing that's keeping me going is the fact that I really truly believe my son was sent here on an assignment from God.
So I chose those two because you had the range of emotions, right? Al Sharpton showing some anger there, honestly, at what had happened. And then, of course, the extreme sadness and despair of Tyree's mother, and saying that maybe she believes that her son was sent here to do something, to make a point and to show some service when it was all said and done. So Art, as a man who, I'll ask you some legal questions later, but just as a lifetime Memphis resident, what were your thoughts this past week as you were watching all this play out?
I mean, it was a rough week for Memphis. It was tough. But as I was sitting here and watching the video and thinking back through it, one of the things that kind of struck me was that these officers have been fired and charged before the day of Tyree Nichols' funeral. And if I could echo the words of Ben Crump, I think Memphis has basically given the world the blueprint on how to handle these cases. To act swiftly, quickly, and to be transparent. Steve Mulroy showed the video. He released it. He didn't wait a year. These officers were charged, and in the prior administration, we never saw anything like this. So I think overall, I think we carried ourselves well. Memphians are resilient. We've been through a lot. This is the place in the death of Dr. King, and I think we handled it gracefully.
You agree, Tawan? What were your thoughts after this week?
I think Art is right on point. We did handle it well in the beginning. And certainly it speaks to what is necessary for hiring and firing of people too, because Chief Davis did that quickly, but gave them everybody a fair hearing, made no statements to the public before she heard their cases, to hear their point of view, look at the video, and then make a decision. And then she came out with her statement. I thought that was beautifully done. So they can say there was no bias, but based on job performance or lack thereof, really. But I don't think we're over this yet. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much more to be done. And the service was a celebration of life, but the Madam Vice President really gave an opening statement for the litigation of this case. And so did Al Sharpton in his eulogy.
You know, as much praise as there was, it got muted a little bit the more we learned that, well, not 5 officers were suspended. There were 7 officers suspended. They weren't all black. And there has been some criticism about why didn't we at least know that there had been 7? Maybe you can't release their names yet. Maybe you can't charge them yet for whatever reason. And Art, this is where I want your legal perspective here. What are some of the things that might be going on legally? Because I'm sure that's probably what's at play here that would delay them from taking the same action against the 2 officers who were still waiting to hear what's going to happen to them versus the 5 where they were able to take such swift action.
Obviously, they've got due process, and they've got a right to have a hearing before they're fired. And I don't know sort of what went on behind the scenes or whether they've been delayed for whatever reasons. So I don't really know the answer to that question, Richard.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't know.
So, Otis, there were also those 2 deputies, the 2 sheriff's deputies that we saw on the video, right. And only after the video played and the whole world saw it did the deputies get suspended, but we're still waiting to hear what's going to happen to them. Some criticism directed toward Sheriff Bonner on that. What are your thoughts?
And I think some valid criticism. The implication the Friday night that the videos came out was that he had not seen the video. I don't know if that's true or not. If he had not seen the video, why hadn't he seen the video? He's the sheriff. And it was clear from the very beginning that Sheriff Department personnel were involved. Their vehicle drove up. You could see that on the video, asking questions, and then one of the Memphis officers pointed in the direction that all the activity was, and then that car took off. So it was clear that Sheriff Department people were involved, and for the sheriff to just come out on the night that the videos were released and talk about suspending officers, I do think it showed he might not have been right there on top of things, or there was a lack of communication somewhere.
And also, there was some criticism after the service that Mayor Strickland and Chief Davis were not in attendance at the service. Do we think that's a legitimate criticism or not? Anyone want to weigh in on that?
I know there were some city employees there, and I would have hoped that the chief of police would have been there. But I don't know who made those calls or who made those decisions. But I will say this, the one thing that really did bother me about this whole thing, I never saw one press release with all of our top officials together. the two mayors, the DA, the sheriff, the police chief, and the heads of the city council and the county commission. One press conference. You never did see that. It was fragmented. And I don't, and Bonner says that he did not see the tape until we all saw it, the same day we all saw it. And if that's the case, the tape was in the possession of the police department and the DA's office. And that should have been made available to him as soon as they noticed that there were other personnel on that scene.
No question.
So I'm not going to throw the book at him if he really did not know it. You can't do something about something that you don't know. But once you know it, you have a responsibility to take action.
All right.
But why didn't people under him inform him that sheriff department personnel was in the neighborhood? I just think that there was a lack of communication and a lack of oversight here that calls us all into question. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, normally in these kind of cases you see there's the TBI investigation, and I think a lot of times the police departments and the sheriff departments and the DA's office will kind of wait until TBI finishes their investigation and then take the discovery or information they receive from TBI and move forward. So it's not it wouldn't be uncommon for Sheriff Bonner not to have seen the tape if it was in the possession of TBI and he was waiting kind of to see what the investigation would unfold.
And we know the Memphis Fire Department said the same thing, that they did not see the video until everyone else did as well, with those three personnel that they ended up firing. All right, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the ramifications of this case moving down the road when we come right back.